Hi, this is a minute of Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now this week I want to talk about your app category. Okay, so this week I want to talk about your app categories. So we don't focus on categories too much. I don't think I've ever talked about it before, but it's something that I think about all the time, right? So when you put an app out on the App Store, one of the first things you need to think about, even before you build the app, is how are people going to find it? You know, there's thousands of apps going into the App Store every day, and you have to think, how is yours going to stand out from the rest? So you got to think, there's different ways that could happen. You could you could own like a major brand, like say if you're the owner of McDonald's, or if you work for say like McDonald's or something like that, people are going to go and they're just going to find it because they'll know it exists, or Uber or something like that. The second way is search. Now search is far more common, so you have to focus on keywords, and you have to think about when somebody goes into the App Store and they're looking for your app, how are they going to find it? What are they going to type in? And are your descriptions, is your title, is everything geared towards finding that person when they go through and see that list of icons, when they type in their search term, is yours going to stand out to them? So that's the second way. So you got search as the second way, but there's another way that we don't focus on too much, and that's just because there's so many apps in the app market that we don't think a lot about the browsers. Actually, that's not really true. When you release your first app, you're thinking people will just browse it and find it. And that never happens. And the reason for that is that there's thousands of apps on the app market. Now, so one of the ways that you can get a little bit higher up is to focus on your category. Now, let's have a look at my screen right here. Now, here's Google Play. If I go into this, and now I'm thinking in terms of a browser. Somebody who just, I don't really know what I want to download. I just, I have, a few ideas. So I'll go in here and I'll go into apps. Again, I'm doing this in the desktop browser. But most of the time they do it on the phone, but it's pretty much the same. So I go into my apps and I'll go into categories and I'll look through here and I'll see medical, and I'll see the top selling medicals and top medical apps or what have you. Now, odds are you're not going to be up there, up there with the big boys. But if I say I go down here and I go top medical apps, and I have a look at what's here, and I think, oh, what's this over here? Number 16, something really stands out. Oh, it's one of mine, right? So it's EarSpy is ranked number 16 in the UK. It's actually ranked higher in other countries. If I go back here and I look at the top selling medical, we're actually number 12, which means we make more money than everybody, number 13 and down below. So when we first released EarSpy, it was released under the category of communication, because it's kind of like a new concept. We weren't really sure what to do with it, so we put it out there in communication. It started getting a lot of downloads just through search. So search was the thing that we work on the most, because you can't just release something to a new category and expect it to end up near the top. But after a while, we started noticing that in the communication category, it would stay around 80, sometimes it would go as high as 70, worldwide, which was pretty exciting. So we played around with different categories, and because so many people use it like as a hearing aid, and they'll put in a comment, oh yes, it's a perfect as a hearing aid app, we moved it over to medical, and then it just kind of went up and up and up, and then the more downloads it gets, the higher it gets up in the rankings, and then of course, people find it because it's high up in the rankings, so it's got this snowballing effect. Now, I'll just show you here my Google Play page here, right? Now, when you think about your categories, Google Play just a couple weeks ago released a bunch of new categories, a whole bunch of new categories. So none of my apps fit in any of these new categories, but I wish they would, because you could just dominate it if nobody else was in that category. So if I scroll down to the bottom of my store listings page here, you can see you got the two tiers of categories. You got games, you got applications. So here we got, if I go into applications, I can see, these new ones here, which is art and design, auto and vehicles, et cetera, maps and navigation, which used to be travel. I think I have a few in travel actually for the language learning, so it doesn't really apply there, so I'm gonna have to move those. But sometimes your app may fall between different categories. So you may have something that's it's a business application, but it's also kind of a utility. So what you could do is start playing around with moving that around every few days. It's easy in Google Play, just like with screenshots and keywords and all that kind of stuff, and descriptions, everything. You don't have to release a new build every time you do it. So it doesn't hurt to go through and play around with that a little bit. If you go into games here, you get a whole new group. So for our language games, sometimes we'll play around with putting them in under applications and then education. Sometimes we'll put them into games and education. So because it's an educational game, but it's kind of an app, it's a learning thing. So we have a lot of room there to play around. Now I wouldn't say go put it into, say, music if it has nothing to do with music, or moving it into a category just because that category is not as crowded as the one that you're trying to get into. But if you do have some justification for moving it to a different category, you might want to try that. Now if I go into iTunes Connect here, I mean, they got the same kind of deal. Oh, there we go. Here's a Polish bubble bath, which we just released this week. So here in Google and iTunes is actually kind of nicer because you have two categories. So you have a category and a subcategory. Actually, I think they're pretty much equal. So here I could say education, and under here I could say games, and games has a subcategory, which I could say educational and word. Sometimes I might try trivia, because it's it's the question and answer nature of the applications. So there's different ways of doing that, and we'll try different things as we go forward. Again, mostly we rely on search, right? So search is going to drive everything. Search is going to get it up in those rankings. Now, App Annie is a really good way to see how well that your app is doing in the search. I showed you EarSpy was like number 16 in medical in the UK, which is the one I could see. If I show you under App Annie, if you go into app details here and you go down to daily ranks, it'll tell you how your app is doing in that category or overall. So you see here under medical, there's it's reached number 1 in Thailand. So if you live in Thailand and you go into the medical category, EarSpy should be the top one, which is nice. I mean, it's helpful. And it's number 3 in Portugal, Saudi Arabia. In the United States, it's higher than it is in the UK. It's ranked number 7 under the medical category in the United States. Now, again, I think that it is a medical application. So a lot of people use it for that purpose. So it's not that I'm gaming the system, but it is getting it in front of the right people. Now, you got to understand that Google wants the right people to find the right app. I want the right people to find the right app. So we're working towards the same purpose, and I got to think about where people are going to be going, the right people for my apps, how they're going to be browsing, how they're going to be looking. So, and we kind of have to meet in that place. So again, it's in thousands of countries around the world. It's in the top 10. If I show you the in contrast, in iTunes they don't have we didn't move it in medical in iTunes. So we have it under lifestyle, so it doesn't do nearly as well there. So you can see in Bahrain, it's ranked number 24 under lifestyle. In most countries it's over 100. So I don't expect people to scroll too far down. However, if you look at a category and you start seeing that everything's pretty much like the same, like so under medical everything's really doctorish and it's blue, and they're using the same kind of stuff, and you have something that really stands out, that might really help you. So now, again, this is only a couple apps where I'm actually ranking in some of the top ones. So other ones I rely on search. Now our biggest selling language game is Korean Bubble Bath. So again, as I mentioned before, was going into keywords, putting in keywords in the title. So the name of the app is actually Korean Bubble Bath, but we called it Learn Korean Bubble Bath Game. And if I go into the daily ranks, it's not ranked anywhere in the top 250. But if I show you the highest ranks, it has actually ranked a little bit. It was number 381 in Puerto Rico back in May. We had like a really good month earlier in the year, but right now it's kind of gone down a little bit, but we'll work to get it back up. So for this one, we're relying a lot on search. So when somebody goes in and says learn Korean, I want EarSpy to come up first. So again, if I show you Google Play, the ways that I want people to find it. Now ideally, when people go into Google Play, into the App Store, they would see EarSpy at the top. But the reality is that's not going to happen, right? So they're either going to type in search, they're going to type spy, or and then that will come up first. So we're working really well on on the keywords. They're going to type in hearing aid, and it will come up fourth. Actually, third here is ours as well. So Ear Assist, that doesn't do nearly as well in the medical category, but it's still there. It's in competition with Ear Spy for that one. Or they might type in eavesdrop. So, you know, like the dual purposeness of the app. So thinking about how other people will use it, and that comes up first there too. So that's it. So this week what I want you to do is take a look at your categories. Now I know it's very easy just to look at the list of things that are there and say, well, I'll just pick the one that seems the most appropriate. It can fall between either one of these, so it doesn't really matter, because that's what I did for years. But you have to start thinking about, start looking at those categories, start thinking, you know, what else is there? And maybe, you know, every couple of days, just switch it, see what happens. Say, you know, do I do better at that category? Do I see a boost in downloads? Does the downloads go down? Think about the browsers. Not everybody's going to go in there and search. And if you're not thinking about search, then you're definitely doing everything wrong. So that's it for this week. Sorry, it's been kind of all over the place, again, as usual, but I hope it's been helpful, and I'll talk to you next week.